Acting Administrator of NASA, Sean Duffy, joins us now. Sean, great to see you.
I am using OBS.
Affects you guys to what degree?
Weird.
Yeah, no, so we've worked really hard with President Trump to make sure that we don't delay
he's moving around on me.
in the space race. We want to make sure that NASA and the critical missions like Artemis, we have our NASA scientists and technicians still working on the project, which, by the way, you just showed the picture of Orion. We are at the process of bringing Orion, which is the capsule that takes the astronauts
like I said
to the
earlier,
moon, first time in 54
Orion is mounted
years,
now.
Brian. They're going out to the moon and back. We're about to join it with the rocket. This is exciting. It was supposed to go by April of next year. We think that we're going to be able to move it up to February if all goes well. But again, it's exciting. There's some science projects that Democrats love that those projects have been paused. But everyone.
It's really unfortunate, I'll leave it at this, that scientific missions, he's making a partisan issue. It's just really unfortunate for everybody. Really quiet compared to you, but not terrible. Okay, I'll take a look at that.
NASA, who's working on projects like Artemis, they're working right now without pay.
So, Sean, how are y'all picking up the pace? How are y'all speeding this process up?
Yeah, so we're on track for Artemis 2, right? That's, again, out to the moon and back. But Artemis 3, Lawrence, is when we land back on the moon. That's going to be about 1.5 years, 2 years from now. SpaceX has the contract. SpaceX, an amazing company. They do remarkable things, but they're behind schedule. And so the president wants to make sure we beat the Chinese. He wants to get there in his term. So I'm in the process of opening that contract up. I think we'll see companies like Blue get involved and maybe others. We're going to have a space race in regard to American companies competing to see who can actually get us back to the moon first. But I feel pretty confident with this competition, we're going to beat the Chinese and do it in President Trump's term, so before 2029, January.
Little competition doesn't hurt.
Always works, Ainsley.
Yeah, as far.
Elon Musk would disagree. But no, little competition doesn't hurt. But that's basically the point he's putting them on blast here. If you look at the proposed schedule that I did it again, that I'm trying to pull it up here, TJ. If you look at the proposed schedule initially from SpaceX to NASA during negotiations, we are behind. It is the end of 2025 and HLS should have launched by now, right? So they were saying first orbital launch test Q2 2022. Now there was the lawsuit from Blue Origin that delayed them by 7 months. So if you were to incorporate that 7-month delay, still would be the end of fiscal year 2025. The SpaceX has received just shy of $3 billion for the HLS contract. Now it is a milestone driven contract. So in order for you to get paid, you have to hit certain milestones. Now, what are those milestones? Great question. That is not something that we've been privy to. If you go and look at the HLS contract between NASA and SpaceX, they have that all blacked out. Essentially, you can see the table and when they get paid and how much they get paid, but you can't see what those milestones are. So it's something that NASA's agreed to. Now the entire contract's value now is they can make up to $4.55 billion on the contract if they hit all their milestones and timelines. They've cashed in about 2.9 billion, or at least they've received 2.5 billion, and they're earmarked to get 2.9 billion pretty soon. So there's also so many ways to think about this too. Like, there's only really two options here, and I don't see the other one making any sense. Blue Origin was brought up earlier. To talk about Blue Origin, they do have the Blue Moon Mark 1 that is flying in January, but let's just say that landing goes perfectly. That lander, as it's designed, is not meant to fly people. It would still need quite a bit of work. I believe it needs more Delta V for the mission that would be required, and there's no crew module built for it yet, even in testing yet. So that's quite behind. Now, they don't have really any issues for money. They are backed by Jeff Bezos. So they're also known for the secrecy. So they may have something behind closed doors that they have yet to reveal to the world. But as far as we know, they're not ready. HLS has been hitting milestones behind the scenes. What are those milestones? Again, we don't know. But they're having obviously some kind of progress. The money that NASA has paid SpaceX is not to develop Starbase, is not to develop the first boot, the Super Heavy, is not even really to develop your Starship. It's meant to develop HLS. So there's some confusion, you know, when we at least I've talked publicly about wanting to see HLS updates, and I've gotten a lot of hate thrown at me for it, because I'm like, hey, I want to see more HLS updates. Like, NASA's been paid $3 billion for HLS. Why aren't we seeing anything? And folks are like, well, you've been looking at Starship's been flying, like that's where the money's going, and that's not where the money's actually supposed to be going. So I said here, SpaceX is quote unquote behind schedule. This administration wants boots on the moon by the time it's out. Full stop. Right. I do appreciate the push for competition. We have a fascinating few years ahead. So, you know, we'll see what comes of this. This, though, upset Elon quite a bit. So I think that no matter what HLS is going to happen, whether NASA's paying for it or not, Elon Musk is not somebody who wants to be shown up or trifled with. Let's take a look at the chat here real quick, because I know I've been kind of ignoring you guys here. There's a mystery structure in McGregor which appears to be HLS related. I did not know that. And oh yes, you're right about that. Yeah, I remember seeing that tent structure type of thing. That I'd love for them to be like, hey, it's basically done. That would be awesome. That would be fantastic. We just don't know that yet. Safety doesn't matter for cargo, and they're already safest for Crew Dragon. Yes, I mean, safety, the Crew Dragon is extremely safe. So long the race condition doesn't put human life in danger, and that cannot be understated, because if you have like a loss of crew event for Artemis, it's done. It is done. But all good, valid points. So Elon has gone off on Mr. Duffy, and they're at war here. But this war is actually is proving to be potentially even more fruitful for us than we could have hoped for. Mainly because a report came out this week, or today, I believe it was, that the administration is not happy with Duffy with basically creating a turf war with Elon, and they would like for him to make some peace, and or the president is going to make a decision soon to potentially have Jared Isaacman be the NASA administrator, which would be incredible. So, you know, fingers crossed that they do the right thing and bring this whole thing back around and have Jared be the NASA administrator, which he's got incredible bipartisan support. There's a letter that was written that's got like 40 signatures on it of former astronauts and Republicans and Democrats. So let's just rip off the Band-Aid, save NASA. Let's get Jared in the seat, and hopefully we can put this all behind us. Chat suddenly working nice. Yes, it is working nice. I am very happy about that. So that's the overview of Jared and Jared Isaacman and Duffy and Musk. This has been. I encourage you to read some of the things that have been said in a variety of articles. The initial news about, I want to give some credit to the Wall Street Journal. They were the first outlet to break that Duffy was trying to fold NASA under the Department of Transportation. Some really high quality reporting there. I do recommend folks go read what they had to say and the reporting that they did. I do want to play, though, one more video from, where is it? I don't have that built yet. Okay. I do want to play one more video. We saw that one already. Don't worry, it's coming to me.
I know NASA is under your purview as well. Exciting about the Artemis too. You're making strides there. Less emphasis on the climate crisis now at NASA. I can't imagine. I can't imagine the carbon footprint for this. You thinking through these things?
No comment.
There's a lot of agencies that can deal with climate. There's only one that does human space exploration, and that's NASA. And that's what we've refocused on. So in the first part of next year, Artemis 2 is going to go out to the moon and back. They're not going to land this time, but this is the first time in 54 years we're going back to the moon. We actually right now down at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, we have the rocket alongside the capsule where it's going to hold our astronauts. We're about to merge those two together. We do the final testing. We think the original timeline was doing this launch in April. We think we can do it in early February, which is really cool. Artemis 3 comes a couple years after that. Now, SpaceX had the contract for Artemis 3. By the way, I love SpaceX. It's an amazing company. The problem is they're behind. They push their timelines out, and we're in a race against China. The president and I want to get to.
Now, I want to say about the timelines from people who are in the industry and insiders. They believe that an actual rational landing of Starship on the moon is 2029, just about 2029, 2030. There's just so many things that have to go right. There's so much new technology being pushed here. Just look at the test campaign so far, right? I mean, incredible progress in the last couple of years, like incredible speed for what they're trying to do. But they are creating a whole new way of travel. Like some of the fundamentals are there, but the way they're going about it is so drastically innovative. And because of that, things are going to break. Things are going to blow up. Starship V2 was like very, very good at blowing up. It did at a high level. So who's to say? Is this guy's a drone? Is he reading from a script? Oh, Duffy. He is rehearsed. I don't believe he's reading from a prompter, but he's definitely been practicing his sound bites. If I'm a drone, let me know. Sorry. But Duffy, he's been conditioned to say things in a certain way. They craft this messaging very specifically. I'll wrap up my thoughts after we get through Duffy.
The moon in this president's term. So I'm going to open up the contract. I'm going to let other space companies compete with SpaceX, like Blue Origin. And again, whatever one can get us there first.
I don't see moving this contract to somebody else. Like the only closest one is Blue Origin. I know I love Bob Behnken, former NASA astronaut, DM2 commander, and Discovery STS-135 pilot. Super qualified individual. He made some statements this week saying, "Oh yeah, Northrop, we're gonna work on or Lockheed rather. Things with Lockheed. We're gonna work on we're gonna put a proposal in for this lander. Come on, you are no way you're gonna hit this. No way." Not a chance. Only other company that's remotely close is Blue, and they're behind the eight ball compared to SpaceX.
To the moon, we're going to take, and if SpaceX is behind, but Blue Origin can do it before them, good on Blue Origin. But by the way, we also might have two companies that can get us back to the moon.
Blue Origin is contracted for the second human landing, so they are working on it, but they had to work on it at the same rate.
In 2028. But again, we're not going to wait for one company. We're going to push this forward and win the second space race against the Chinese, get back to the moon, set up a camp, a base, and from there, we're going to figure out how we can actually get to Mars.
He said the magic word there, Chinese. What is the worst case scenario for the president of the United States, in particular this president, is that if China is on the moon and we are not, the optics of that would be not great, especially with the messaging that he has been putting out with their goals. So that is really the scary thing. They'll probably would be okay if nobody landed on the moon in this term, but there's a real threat to them that China will land on the moon within this presidency, and that is not something that they'll allow to happen. They want to happen. So that's really it. That's the Duffy v. Musk. The Starship is progressing, again, at an exceptionally fast rate, and it's very exciting to watch, but in-flight refueling is going to be harder than most people think. High flight cadence is going to be way harder than most people think. Storing that propellant long term on orbit is going to be harder than most people think. They have so many huge technology advancements that I believe they will make, but it's going to take a long time. That's just the truth of the matter. But I do love the innovative thoughts that some people have been coming up with how to actually get some land to get people on the moon. So there's a lot of ways to cut it. There's a lot of brilliant people in this business, so I'm sure that they will get to a solution sooner than later. So Blue is contracted for the third landing. Artemis 4 is SpaceX. Thank you, Pashto. That's my bad. Then we are talking JWST level points of failure here. Yeah, there's a ton of opportunities for failure. Are the moon suits ready? No, they're behind too. Moon suits are behind. Now, like they were I feel like they were supposed to have like the first test article on orbit this year or next year. They were going to practice, they were going to do some EVAs with it on station. I'm pretty sure that was the timeline, which is crazy. I don't see in-flight fuel soon, but I'd be dead by then. I'll say, I hope not. I really hope you're not. I hope that you're alive to see all of this. The Musk got blacklisted by the president when he realized he wasn't in it for meaningful change. Yeah, it's pomp and circumstance. That's all I can really say. You know, Doge did not exactly do what it was set out to do. The national debt was $36 trillion on January 1st. It is now $38 trillion. So we're $2 trillion more in debt 10 months into this administration. So think of that how you want. Ship 39 already has a docking port. Yes, it does. Like they're going to get to it. But the thing with the tanker, the thing with Artemis 3 or just the Starship architecture in general is you just need so many refueling flights to keep the depot topped off. That's the real challenge here. So we've seen the damage that Starship can do to a launch site. Now, obviously, they have the second tower that they've built, and the future ones are going to improve. But if you want to fly multiple times a day, it is going to be challenging. The other aspect, Tim Dodd, he posted a video on X. Let me find it really quick. Of the launch of Starship. And think about this. Just think about this really quick. You live... Where did he post this? Okay. TJ, no. Okay. You live at Starbase. And you don't see my browser. Why is it? Oh, it's because I had it minimized. TJ. So you live at Starbase, okay? And we're like, okay, we have to fly a bunch of tanker flights. Okay, now a lot of these are supposed to happen for the Cape, but mind you, just listen to this. This is... Watch his house. He's 8 kilometers away, but it's home.
Yes!
It's to shake.
No! Lost connection! Why is it shaking so much? And here he comes to the house now. Holy crap. Oh, the house is not just shaking, I can feel it actually rocking.
Now his house is moving. I'm a do-it-yourselfer. All I can think about is the cracks in my drywall right now.
Oh my god.
It's like, I just point this out, like, there's all these extra variables when you have such a big rocket. Big rocket make big noise. Big rocket need lots of propellant. Can we even make it right now? Occasional flight here and there, okay. You know, maybe little microfractures or something, that'd be deal. But you're flying a bunch a day. You know, that's 8 kilometers away from the launch site. I am curious. Let's see, 39A. Okay, so he was 8 kilometers. Now, Kennedy is huge. So, not the big deal, but like if Titusville is going to be the closest line of sight. Where's the measure? Measure distance from here to here. 12.55 miles. So that's 20 kilometers. Okay. So more than twice, and sound travel is not linear. So it's going to be much quieter from over there, but it is still going to be loud. But you know, you move to Titusville, it's kind of what you get when you move to Titusville, so you're aware. May not be that big of a deal. Might be just something to point out. Definitely gonna be a big deal from Brownsville though. Like you're not gonna be able to fly at a high rate out of Brownsville. You just can't with that level of noise. South Padre, like you won't be able to vacation. It could actually start to like turn people away from wanting to go out there because there's so many rocket launches. You have to wear ear protection. I taught you a new Google Maps trick. Yeah, you can measure. It's pretty fun. But we're looking at measure distance to Titusville is about 20 kilometers. I'm curious what decibels he experienced at 8 kilometers, because we could do the math to figure out what it is to be out here at 20 kilometers. Regardless, a lot. So yeah, these folks, this guy right here, he's gonna have a tough time. Oh well, that's what you get for the Space Coast, right? Oh, we gotta. Looks. I want to see this one is here. Okay, so Pasto says, I've heard that SpaceX tried to get liquid oxygen from a company for the KSC pads. The company's entire supply can only handle 2 or 3 launches. I've heard that. Airgas, is that the company? They are proactively working on building up their abilities out down there and their output, but I don't know if it's going to be done timely enough. So we'll see. But yeah, you need a lot of propellant for Starship. I think we've covered Musk Duffy enough. They're building AirSep units at Starbase and something in Brownsville. Yeah. They have to build their own capacity, because the capacity that we can put out as a nation is probably what they need for Starship. If at the flight rate they need. That might actually be a fun exercise to do next week to figure out. I know somebody's already done the math, like how much propellant would be needed. But like, I'm curious what our output as a nation is. It's pretty high because we make liquid oxygen for a lot of applications and liquid methane. But Starship is its own animal. Oh, Spain's spat is in T-minus 7 minutes. Well, yeah, we can hop over to the stream. This will be my first time streaming using this setup, so it'll be a good test. So let me pull that up right quick here. Thank you, Pashto, for giving me a heads up. How's everybody tonight? Well, we're hanging here waiting for Spain's sat. I built a tool to pull the stream in, so let's see if that works. Yeah, it is pulling in, although the playback is kind of poor for some reason. Well, I cut my entire self out of there. That was not the plan. Yeah, look at that. It's dropping frames and everything like crazy. Oh wait, that's a bummer. Well, we can stream from the...
Next up in the countdown, the transporter erector, or TE, will begin to retract away from Falcon 9.
We got 5 minutes.
That is the large truss structure you see standing next to the rocket. It is hinged at the base and connected to the launch mount beneath the first stage. First, we'll see the clamp arms open around the second stage, and then the TE will begin to pivot back, slowly swinging away from the rocket. It'll reach full recline.
Only one more thing to
by
troubleshoot.
T-minus 3 minutes and 40 seconds. You may also hear the TE called the strongback.
I think I know why it's doing it too.
Retract has started.
Different name. And as you heard there, strongback retract has begun, so watch for those arms to start to open. The TE does roll the Falcon 9 out to the pad. It also raises it vertical and stays connected through the final seconds to launch. It provides fuel, power, telemetry, and command connections between ground systems and the rocket. We're just about to see those clamp arms start to open around the second telemetry and command connections between ground systems and the rocket. We're just about to see those clamp arms start to open around the second stage of the vehicle. Those clamps help to stabilize the second stage during propellant loading and are also there to prevent movement in high winds. Once they're open, the rocket will be fully free at the top.
Let me know if you can hear the broadcast. It should be pulling through here, but I'm not totally sure if this works.
Fully opened. The launch tower's strongback is now beginning to move away from Falcon 9, allowing it to stand freely before liftoff. The TE has two components, a strongback alongside Falcon 9 and a launch mount underneath. The launch mount has 4 hold downs that release at T0. The strongback is hinged to that launch mount and is rotating about 2 degrees away from Falcon 9. At liftoff, the strongback will move 45 degrees away to clear the way for Falcon 9's launch. At this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. The first stage and second stage should finish loading liquid oxygen.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And there you just heard, the first stage has finished LOX loading. Liquid oxygen loading for the first stage is the final propellant load for the booster. The tanks are also pressurized using helium, which is chilled so that it stays compatible with the cryogenic plumbing. During flight, that pressurization helps force propellant into the engines
just
as
a
the tank's empty.
telecommunications satellite
At
for
T-minus
Spain.
60 seconds, Falcon 9 will enter startup. At that point, the rocket's onboard flight computers will take over, and from there on out, the countdown will be fully autonomous. Just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, the 9 Merlin 1D engines will ignite, and once they're at full
If
power,
you've seen one of these flights, you know what you're getting into here. But I'll read off a little bit about this payload. This is the SpainSat New Generation 2. It's the largest project for his DSAT since its creation. Its technological complexity and strategic relevance will position the company as an international benchmark in satellite communications. The new SpainSat NG generation will multiply by 16 times the capacity in X and Ka military band with respect to the current devices, and will add new payload in UHF band. In addition, it will operate with active X-band antennas in receive and transmit. Pioneers in the European aerospace sector, each of them will be assigned 16 different areas of cooperation to perform their coverage services with electronic configuration. These satellites are going to be replacing older SpainSat satellites. They'll be useful for about 15 years, so they are scheduled to operate to 2040 and beyond. That's SpainSat. We got about a minute until takeoff, and then we'll move on to our next topic, because why not? All right, Falcon 9's in startup. Oh no, why is it breaking up now? Can't win tonight. There we go. Jeez. Out of focus there. No landings tonight. It's this booster's 22nd and final flight. His DSAT. Notable mission for this particular booster, it did fly Inspiration 4. That was its only... Oh, and AX1. AX1. Those were its 2 crewed flights. Everything else is basically Starlink. Or you know what? Maybe I may have been reading the wrong stat for the wrong booster. Hang on. 1076. I looked at 1062. Nope, 1076. Okay. Disregard. Well, not surprising. This booster was mostly for Starlink. No crewed flights, just 1 commercial resupply. One other note about this booster that's now falling to its death in the Atlantic Ocean. Its first flight was in November 2022. So it flew for just almost 3 years. Oh, it died just shy of a month of its 3rd birthday. Gath Thluftoth. Okay. They're gonna go hang out for 3 minutes. That's our flight. That's the flight. I don't know if they really want to watch much else of this. I'm not sure how long it's going to take for this payload to get to its final destination. So we will move on from SpainSat. Okay, next up is Artemis 2. This one's a pretty brief news item. So Artemis 2's Orion has been stacked. Is it going to play? Are you going to play? Are you going to be bad? Let's see. Duffy plays? That one works. There we go. Okay, don't know what that was about. This is actually the stacking from Artemis 1. Thank you to the federal government being closed. Images.nasa.gov is not updating. So we get to look at what it looked like for Artemis 1. Good news is, it's basically the same thing. Artemis 2 is now stacked in the VAB and it's undergoing final checks. And then it will roll out to the pad mid-January. And that's the update. As Duffy said, Administrator Duffy said it could fly as early as February. We think that's pretty unlikely from everything that I've heard. It is likely going to fly in March or likely April. And I wish I had more on this. The crew, I know from folks I've talked to at NASA, the crew's ready. And there's nothing much for them to do. They're staying fresh and they are drilling, but there's nothing new really to report on Artemis 2. I wish that there was more, but that's it. Now, the next topic is on Space Shuttle Discovery, which is kind of a tough pill to swallow right now. The 2 Texas senators want to bring Discovery to Houston. I wanted to take a minute and read what they had to say in a recent letter to the Department of Justice, I believe. It was certainly very interesting. It was to the Attorney General Pam Bondi, and this is a topic I'd like to spend a little bit of time on and get your all's thoughts, but also just review what they're saying. Whether it's just, there's some things that I do challenge some of the facts on, and I would like y'all's thoughts on it. So let me just get this framed up in our next scene here, and we can dig in. I'm still not totally confident in how I'm doing these, if I'm doing these streams in an effective way for y'all. So if I'm not, please let me know. So I've got the letter here. So this is a letter written to the Attorney General Pam Bondi, and it's signed by 2 senators and 1 representative, Senators John Cornyn, Senator Ted Cruz, and Congressman Randy Weber. And there's some interesting things said in this letter that they give some history to the program here, but there's a lot of things that I think spaceflight historians would find concerning. So we write to encourage the Department of Justice's Civil Division to open an investigation into potential violations of the Anti-Lobbying Act by the Smithsonian Institution in connection with attempts to obstruct the passage and implementation of President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The legislation signed into law on July 4th, 2025 authorizes the transfer of a NASA-designated space vehicle to a center involved in the administration of the Commercial Crew Program, and then to a local entity within the same metropolitan area for public display. Well, that's vague. Transfer of a NASA-designated space vehicle? Okay, well, that could be Artemis 1 or Artemis 1's Orion. It could be that. Also, I don't understand why the Commercial Crew Program matters in this instance, but I'll continue. In August, Acting Administrator Sean Duffy approved the relocation of Space Shuttle Discovery to a nonprofit organization near NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. I'm curious if Isaacman becomes the administrator. He's like, nope, I'm going to withdraw that. You can have Artemis 1. But the Space Shuttle Discovery has been housed at the Smithsonian Institution's Udvar Hazy Center since 2012. The Smithsonian is a federal government entity and has served as the official steward of the orbiter for over a decade. Now, Space Shuttle Discovery will return to the Houston community, making a historic homecoming to the very place that played an essential role in making its mission possible. From a legal standpoint, the Smithsonian's saying NASA does not have ownership of the shuttle anymore. It was signed over to the Smithsonian. You just can't come and take it. So there's some technical finagling that is going on here. This is where it gets interesting. As the cornerstone of America's human space exploration program, Houston is honored to welcome home the Space Shuttle Discovery. Welcome home? It was never its home. They were built in California. They were flown in Florida. Its home was never Texas. It didn't go to Texas. However, public reporting suggests the Smithsonian Institution has taken affirmative steps to oppose the passage and implementation of the shuttle's relocation as part of President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. Yes, they oppose it because you will destroy an artifact or permanently disfigure it. These steps include lobbying the staff of the Senate Appropriation and Rules Committees to express disapproval, according with members of the press to general public opposition to the law's passage, and disseminating misinformation about the costs and logistics of the move. There's not a lot of arguing about the logistics. To move it by land, there would need a lot of structures to literally be removed from perimeters of roads for the shuttle to pass through. This is assuming if you want to put it on a trailer and like what they did in LA, you know, navigate it through roads and things of that nature, to get it to the Potomac River, to put it on a barge to bring it to Houston. I'm not even sure how possible that would be, even with the bridges I'm thinking about in DC now. Like, you would need to drop it off somewhere in like Old Town Alexandria or something, because you can't bring it up north of the 14th Street Bridge in DC. The bridge is too short. The shuttle won't pass under it. So it would have to go south of like the 14th Street Bridge or the Key Bridge in the Potomac. We can't fly it again. The 747, the two 747s that were built to move the shuttles are no longer flyable. So you'd have to then what? Build another airplane that can move a space shuttle? Okay, that's not going to happen, especially for the budget that they've proposed. The two 747s that were used had completely custom outfitted to fly the shuttles. The interiors of those shuttles had crazy extra structure added in order to fly the shuttle. Here's where it gets interesting. The institution has circulated cost estimates that exceed quotes from experienced private sector logistic firms by more than tenfold. But that's what they're saying. There's no they haven't provided really any proof here. Let's see, is there anything, do they cite this anywhere as tenfold? No, there's no footnote on this statement. So we don't have anything to work with here. They falsely claim the shuttle's wings would need to be removed for transport, a claim not supported by industry experts. Here's the thing. They did this research when they were looking to move the shuttle in the first place. They wanted to see if it was practical to move it by ground rather than fly it in. It wasn't. It was easier to fly it in and swap it with Enterprise and fly Enterprise up to, I believe they flew Enterprise to New Jersey and put it in a barge to take to New York. Or did it fly into New Jersey? That's interesting. Anyways, these activities raise significant concerns under the Anti-Lobbying Act, which prohibits the use of appropriated funds for communications intended to influence members of the public to pressure Congress regarding legislation or appropriations matters. So they're trying to say that the federal government should be funding itself to lobby against itself. But the Smithsonian is not wholly funded by the federal government. So I'm sure that they create an argument saying, oh, well, that money wasn't spent by you. And the 747 is an almost obsolete platform. Yeah, I mean, they did just build the last 747. It's useless hardware now. Give it to whoever can maintain it historically best. Right. The Smithsonian is the best place in the world for preserving this type of artifact. That's what it is now. It's an artifact. So, okay, they're upset about the lobbying. In addition to obstructing lawful impact of the Big Beautiful Bill, the Smithsonian claims it is not a government entity. The claim is legally unfounded. The Smithsonian institution is fundamentally a creation of Congress. It was, yes. Its original trust fund is held and managed by the U.S. Department of Treasury. That's the trust fund, not the institution. 2/3 of its budget comes from federal appropriations, and its employees are federal employees. These are all things that orbit the institution, but that is not the institution. The institution is represented in litigation by the U.S. Department of Justice with judgments paid from the United States Judgment Fund. Notably, it has never sued a federal executive branch agency. Federal courts have repeatedly recognized the Smithsonian as a federal government entity subject to federal law and entitled to government immunities. So the footnote is 10. This is Benita versus Smithsonian in 1992. Interesting. As Usage Court for the District of Columbia stated, the Smithsonian is a government institution through and through. This is a source in 11. Raven versus Sahed in 2018. That status remains strict adherence to federal law and the highest ethical standards. Anything, but like, it's not ethical to destroy this, to damage this, to move this. The greater context even with this is that Houston had a chance to get Discovery in 2012. They had a chance. They bid to be one of the locations to get a space shuttle. They did not get it because they could not get the money together. So now they have the money 12 years later, 13 years later, like, okay, we're going to move it now. That chance happened 13 years ago. So following the lead of President Trump's recent executive order restoring truth and sanity to American history and the announcement of the internal review of Smithsonian exhibitions and materials, we question the Smithsonian is truly fulfilling its statutorily provided mission. The Smithsonian's exhibits appear to reflect a growing shift towards interpreting American history through the lens of grievance rather than grounded through historical scholarship. That is not relevant to the argument. That is just political riffraff. The Smithsonian Secretary has embraced the 1619 Project's interpretation of American history, which centers on slavery and, again, not relevant. How does this anything to do with the space shuttle? The upcoming American Women's History Museum has pledged to include biological... Oh, my lord. Okay, still not the space shuttle. These actions combine the Smithsonian's nefarious lobbying efforts against Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, indicate the institution has abandoned its core mission as a steward of national heritage. So they're trying to argue that this is just one of many issues of them deviating from their mission in favor of politicized agenda that undermines its responsibilities as federal government entity and possibly violates federal law. For these reasons, we urge a prompt and thorough investigation into the matter. As a federal government entity, the Smithsonian Institution carries the responsibility to uphold the highest legal and ethical standards. I agree. And credibility and the public's trust depends on it. Also agree. So those statements are accurate, but it's just really not. It's unfortunate. So, collectspace.com is a great site. It's run by, oh boy, what's his name? I met him once. It's killing me here. He does a good job too. Why is his name not on here? Anyways, CollectSpace is a great resource. He's been on this beat for a long time. So, if you guys can remember who writes who runs CollectSpace, please drop it in chat. I want to give him some love. It's just I don't know why his name is escaping me. I'm okay with stuff always not going to the East Coast. I mean, generally I'm fine with that, but really where the preference should be is a couple of things. One, where do the Smithsonian is a institution that is highly sought after for Americans across the country to come to see American history, right? So people who have an interest in American history come to Washington, D.C. to come to enjoy the Smithsonian institutions free of charge. So there's an argument for, at least for Washington, D.C., that it is an ideal location because people come here for history, right? Houston is not necessarily a tourist attraction for the museums and for experiencing American history. The space shuttles are a huge part of our history. So there's that. Also, funding to do it. Houston did not have the funding at the time. The infrastructure and the expertise. Houston does have the Space Center does have a museum, but it's much smaller. This is going to require a whole other custom facility. Also, it's more taxpayer dollars. They want the federal government to foot the bill on this. It's going to cost a lot of money to build that facility, to move the shuttle. Is that what we want our tax dollars to do? Not to mention potentially permanently damaging this artifact. It's wild. It's also wild that they called this the home for bringing Discovery home to Houston is quite silly. So this is the letter. This letter went out this week, so I'm going to be following this closely. There is a movement, I believe it's called Keep the Shuttle. Space Shuttle Discovery belongs at the Smithsonian. So this is a movement that I support. I do encourage folks to fill out this form and so that they can stay updated. I know that I have loved taking my children there. So, but their FAQ is also interesting too. Isn't the move already official? No, Congress recently appropriated $85 million to move Discovery to Houston, but the shuttle is still with the Smithsonian, and they intend to hold her. In 2012, NASA gave the Smithsonian all rights, title, interest, and ownership of the shuttle, and the museum continues to have full ownership. In addition to that, the cost of moving Discovery and building a new display in Houston is certain to exceed $85 million, and will fiercely advocate against wasting further tax dollars. Sure. So they'd make a good point too. Houston has a shuttle display. They have a shuttle on top of one of the shuttle carrier aircraft. It's a replica, but they do have a display, and they have a lot of other shuttle artifacts too down there. So I encourage folks, if they want to learn more, to go to keeptheshuttle.org to learn more about this. It is definitely something that's going to be dragged out and probably taken to court for all intents and purposes. The Smithsonian is not going to back down quietly. I wasn't able to go to Chantilly, but I thoroughly enjoyed being at the National Air and Space Museum in DC last month when I visited the US. Yes, and Mojo, I'm sorry I missed you because I work 3 blocks away from the Smithsonian and I live very close. It is awesome, and I have not gone since they've opened the second section. I've seen the lunar module a million times, but I do need to go pop in. Chantilly is definitely worth it though. I mean, it is hard to beat the view of when you first walk in to Udvar-Hazy. This is the view right here. You walk in and you see a blackbird, 2 warbirds flanking, and then a space shuttle in the background. It is epic. And they have a Concorde. Like, what? I wish we could see inside it or go inside the Concorde. That would be exceptionally cool. It's literally an airplane hangar filled with very rare, cool aircraft. And the other cool thing about Udvar-Hazy is that they have a restoration area, and you can go and see what they're working on. They have this bomber, is it a B-24, called Flakbait they've been working on for a long time, so that's been cool to see. This is when Shuttle and Enterprise got to kiss before they traded spots at the Smithsonian. I wish that I was able to be at that event. That was very, very cool to track. The other cool thing with Udvar-Hazy is that it is also next to the Dulles Airport. So they are able to fly airplanes into Dulles and then taxi them up to the hangar and then preserve them at the museum. This Blue Angel is an example of that. They just, a couple of years ago, 2021, they flew this Blue Angel to Dulles. It literally taxied over to the hangar at Udvar-Hazy. They emptied its tanks and just tugged it into the museum, and they were able to start its preservation work while it was on display. So this thing literally just flew up to the museum. It was very, very cool. Can't do that at a lot of other museums. So that'd be shuttle. Don't butcher the shuttle. The testing shuttle 474, I mean, you mean 747 replica airframe, went to Minnesota being part of some kid's play park. Lots of bad fates. Yeah, that's unfortunate. We had a long layover at Dulles, so we went to see Discovery for the first time. Staring face to face with the shuttle is incredible. Yes, facts. It is. You could just see so many cool details though, too. Like you going to see go look at the tiles, and also you can, when you go up on the second level, you can see into the cockpit, onto the flight deck. It's so cool. There's also some interesting videos of them going in, astronauts or people going inside of it today or recently, which is also very cool. I know that Charlie Bolden, he was a commander of Discovery at one point. I think it was for Hubble, if I'm not mistaken. And he went up into Discovery, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, and they did a whole behind the scenes video of it. This is exceptionally cool. That's definitely on my bucket list to go and see a space shuttle. Go inside a space shuttle. We'll see. I have to do some really good convincing of the Smithsonian. I'm sure the Smithsonian is even more protective of their old bird right now. But anyways, that's shuttle. The final fun topic of the evening is, who doesn't love a good GPU? You want to go game on orbit? NVIDIA's got you. So let's pull this up here. Yay! I thought I'd read through what NVIDIA is trying to do on orbit using basically a Starship. So you'll see in some of these videos that what they're looking to do with Star Cloud. That's what they're calling it, Star Cloud, which looks pretty neat. So it's basically putting data centers on orbit. Now, here's the thing that I want to, let's see if I can find the right shot. The shot that kind of breaks my brain is the sense of scale. 4 kilometers. Look at, let's see, can I pause this? Okay. Some designer I'm sure they told somebody, they were like, hey, we want you to build a Starship, but don't actually make it look like a Starship because we don't have a contract with them yet. But just put a Starship, something that looks like a Starship shuttle thing here. Now imagine Starship. Now look how big that payload is. These suckers are huge. So big. Massive. And then a 4 kilometer high array, 5 gigawatt data center. Now, what they aren't showing here, the big question that a lot of people ask initially is, how are they going to cool this? This is a lot of heat that these arrays are going to make. And, traditionally you have a solar array, then you have a radiator on the shadow side of whatever your spacecraft is, so that the heat that is hitting the arrays, they're able to provide a coolant, refrigerant. Usually it's like ammonia or something. It's pretty much always ammonia that they pump through the pipe, the heat exchanger, and that way they can keep the arrays cool but still generating energy. So they'll have to have an elaborate heat exchanger radiator situation on the back end here, but we've done it. Obviously, we're doing it now. We do it all the time for solar arrays, but never 4 kilometers tall. The other kind of issue with this is they're showing it in low Earth orbit. There's Earth down there. It's probably going to have to be pretty far up because this is a huge sail, and you don't really think about it that much, but like low Earth orbit, there's drag. There's definitely drag. And when you basically put a huge sail in low Earth orbit, you're going to be falling down towards the Earth quite quickly. So I don't know if it's going to be in Geo or MEO, but LEO seems unlikely just due to the size of this thing. I mean, the station has to be reboosted several times a year, and at least in this, there's no propulsion here that's going to do that. So obviously, this is an artist's rendering. They're many, many years away from starting to assemble this thing, but the sense of scale is bonkers. That's a starship fairing sized data center. So that's what I'm trying to think of these as like their own data centers that potentially have thousands of H100s on board. Radiation, cooling, big joke. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I'd love for you to elaborate. How is something like that supposed to avoid space junk? Those panels are comically massive. It doesn't avoid space junk. You have to really overbuild it. Two biggest questions I saw people ask were meteorite impacts and heating. Yeah. Handling the heat and impacts. Oh, AI bubble. Yeah, I mean, data centers on orbit, interesting concepts. I'm not convinced that's near term. But maybe. I don't see it. But that's a very Bezosian like thing to push. He really wants to push manufacturing and things that are bad for environment into space, our environment into space. But what's the trade-off with assembling this thing? What is your environmental trade-off? I don't know yet. I don't have the answer, but certainly very interesting. Let's see, this video is still playing. Okay, cool. So let's just learn a little bit more about their concept and reasoning why radiation in space requires shielding. Cooling in space is very complicated. It is extremely complicated. Definitely not trying to water that down. Extraterrestrial data centers are just on the horizon. Soon, an AI-equipped satellite from StarCloud. Soon, fun. A member of NVIDIA Inception program for startups will orbit the Earth. Well, okay, this is a small one. It's not the big satellite, but it's a test device. It's a large step toward the startup's ultimate goal to bring state-of-the-art data centers to outer space. This can be a part of the solution to address challenges faced by rising AI demands, including energy consumption and cooling requirements for data centers on Earth. I'm not buying that yet. These are solar arrays. It's much easier to build that scale or 10 times bigger scale solar farm on Earth to power your data center than put it on orbit. So in space, you get almost unlimited low-cost renewable energy, said Philip Johnson. Well, it's unlimited and it's low cost once everything's assembled, but you have to amortize that. Philip Johnson, co-founder CEO of the startup, which is based in Redmond, Washington. The only cost in the environment will be the launch. Then there will be 10x carbon dioxide savings over the life of the data center compared with powering the data center terrestrially on Earth. Now that is the compelling argument. The carbon footprint offset is quite big. But there's other things we could do, reduce carbon footprint, but still fine. It's a good, fair argument. StarCloud's upcoming satellite launch planned for November will mark the NVIDIA H100 GPU's cosmic debut and first time a state-of-the-art data center class GPU is in outer space. Now, where I see now they are pushing GPUs to the edge for low Earth orbit Earth observation satellites, putting GPUs on the satellites and then just beaming down the processed data rather than beaming down raw data. Is that an improvement? I'm not sure, but it is something that is being moved. So GPUs in space are like coming. The 60-kilogram StarCloud 1 satellite, about the size of a small fridge, is expected to offer 100 times more powerful GPU compute than any previous space-based operation. Instead of relying on fresh water for cooling through evaporative towers, as many Earth-based centers do, StarCloud space-based data centers can use the vacuum in deep space as an infinite heat sink, meaning waste heat from infrared radiators into space can conserve significant water resources on Earth since water isn't needed for cooling. We have a lot of water here. Constant exposure to the sun in orbit also means near infinite solar power, aka no need for the data centers to rely on batteries or backup power. At least homeowners won't be paying for the electricity if it's in orbit. Yes, they'll just be paying for the assembly to get it all up in orbit. I missed what Rhodey said. Oh, that you said at least homeowners won't be paying for the electricity if it's in orbit. Yeah. Emitting waste, yeah. Star Clouds projects the energy costs in space to be 10x cheaper than land-based options. They said, so it's 10x cheaper. The energy costs are 10x cheaper. And the carbon footprint is 10x. Okay, lots of tens. We got some good round numbers here. Oh, fun. Here, look at this. In 10 years, nearly all new data... more tens. In 10 years, nearly all new data centers will be built in outer space, Johnson predicts. I don't know. I'm a futurist. I love this stuff, but it's ambitious. I like it. An early use case for extraterrestrial data centers is in the analysis of Earth's observation data, which can inform applications for detecting crop types and predicting local weather. Plus, real-time data processing in space offers immense benefits for critical applications such as wildfire detection and distress signal response. Running inference in space, right where the data is collected, allows insights to be delivered nearly instantaneously, reducing response times from hours to minutes. That's an extreme, but it could potentially improve time for sure. Earth observation methods include optical imaging with cameras, hyperspectral imaging, yada, yada, yada. Okay, SAR. Now, where you could use less bandwidth beaming down just to process information rather than the raw information, which is another positive trade-off. Star Cloud needs to be competitive with the type of workload you can run on an Earth-based data center, and NVIDIA GPUs are the most performant in terms of training, fine-tuning, and inference. Okay. Being part of NVIDIA is great. Okay. Star Cloud is a recent graduate of the Google for Startup Cloud AI Accelerator, plans to run on Gemma, an open model from Google, in orbit on H100 GPUs, proving even large language models can run in outer space. Yeah, you could run a large language model on the space station now if you wanted to. And for future launches, the startup is looking to integrate the NVIDIA Blackwell platform, which Johnson expects will offer even greater in-orbit AI performance with improvements up to 10x. Perfect. Compared with the NVIDIA Hopper architecture. It's 10x, y'all. Right. Wait, what? How do they shed heat to the infinite vacuum of space again? What conducts the heat away exactly? Vacuum bottles are insulators, not heat sinks. So I thought about that a little bit. Okay, hear me out. Hear me out on this. Now, you do have to still create some kind of barrier for the heat. But ULA had a interesting Centaur tanker deep fuel depot concept a while ago, and they had to come up with some solutions for boil off. They wanted to put liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen on orbit, and they basically made a big umbrella. Obviously, it was like a hyper insulated tank, but they also put like a huge umbrella out in front of it so that it was always in a shadow. And similar to, I've never been able to wrap my head around heat transfer in space. Yeah, it doesn't really, it works like here, but not like here. So it was always there with the propellant perpetually in a shadow, but you're just basically always chasing the sun, right? Because it's in orbit, so it requires some level of energy to not be impacted. Now, the Parker Solar Probe has to do kind of similar thing. This is like a heat shield on the front here, right? Similar kind of concept. The Parker Solar Probe's got here. And this keeps all this cool enough to operate. So you could, there's precedent here. This thing's near the sun and it's functioning. So there is precedent here that you could create some kind of shade system. I'm gonna look at this. ULA Centaur Fuel Depot. I'm not sure if, let's see if I can find it. I know it's definitely on the NTRS somewhere. Centaur derived landers. Yeah, you want to dig deep into Centaur. There's a lot of. There it is. Look at this thing. Like, possible. The ones on the space station use radiation to output heat. Yes. And they have ammonia for the heat exchange. That's kind of what they did for Skylab. Yep, there's nothing there to absorb the heat. Well, you want to reflect it. But look how long this array is. You know, this array would need to go protrude outside of this umbrella type of structure, right? But the idea is this tank on the right here is always in perpetual shade. And then they had these docking ports that you'd have Centaurs go fly up to, right? And this is actually the fuel depot tank is in here, is inside this umbrella. This is a refuelator Centaur, I guess. So it's just wrapped in aluminum or some kind of sun shield. There's another drawing they did too. But it's essentially some kind of umbrella structure. So if you follow a similar Centaur model, what if you built one of these huge umbrellas? But I don't know where you would put the heat still. Because stuff will still get hot. No, they do not picture what I'm showing. NVIDIA press releases for GPUs in space don't picture what you're showing. You're absolutely right. And I am not taking anything from that graphic as literal. And I don't think anybody should. Because they're not answering key technical issues for why it's not going to work. They had to get some kind of release out to promote this. So they felt that they had to. And the Starship Depot, like, it's going to have these issues. It could be super insulated, but like they're going to have crazy challenging pressure issues that they're going to have to resolve for. So is this the perfect method? Maybe not, but oh, Jonathan Goff. Yeah, he's written about this stuff for a long time. You know, maybe we should find somebody to come on the stream who can talk at a higher level about fuel depots, because it is such a super fascinating topic, and also like comes up in science fiction quite often. But you know, you're having the same issues with heat with Starship, where you're the pressure inside those tanks is gonna grow a lot. And so you're going to have boil off. You have to release it. But there's precedent here for some solutions, so it's going to be interesting. Yeah, you know, we should do a whole stream on fuel depots. I should prep just a stream just on fuel depots. I think that could be really fun. Like it's a little laughable that they're just like, yeah, Starship's just going to be this. 2 years ago, they said that it was going to look like this. Not a chance. Not a chance. It would look closer to HLS probably. I'd paint it white, but we'll see. But folks, that is the stream for the evening.